So hi, I'm Otaro Nabasar. So why I'm the greatest fit for being a UI UX intern here at Symph is that I have the capabilities. I have the knowledge about fundamentals, basics, and how UI UX works as a whole. And also other thing is I'm an introvert. So why I started designing is that looking back when I was a child, I always have fun at designing when it comes to drawing or something coloring because at first it was a hobby. Then I was so much having fun. That's why it pursued to this and it led to this. So having this passion and grit about designing is something that's always gonna be embedded in your heart because having this learning curve about designing is always essential. It's something that's always relevant when you're trying to design with something because designing with something is not always going to be linear. There's always going to be a learning curve about designing because there's always going to be something new, whether it is design trend or the tools that you're currently using, like Figma or such. And having this empathy is a great impact about why you design. Because having this empathy is not just you designing for yourself or someone, it's because you are designing for a solution. You're designing for something that's always relevant to a real world experience. So why I aligned with Simp is that I can build with purpose. Building with a purpose is something that's always relevant to me because building with a purpose is having this vision how you can solve a certain problem and also trying to mitigate the loss of a certain company from it. So this one is design mindset. Design mindset is how you can really cope up with the design problems. Day by day, there's always a design process that you will be doing, whether it's crypto, e-commerce, CRM. There's always going to be a different design process in there, but it's how you really implement the UX laws, hierarchy-wise, usability, or visual elements in terms of your design capacity. Here is the ideation or also the brainstorming one because ideation and brainstorming is always essential when you're trying to design because it's not just you having this transparency about designs, it's also about the customer, the client, and also the developers that will be designing or developing their current design. So competitive research is something that's always useful when you're trying to design because knowing how a certain competitor mitigates that one and also provides solution that one and a way you can make that two other things in something that oh I can probably enhance this in my design. I can make this user friendly and also good usability in terms of how this function work or else. So here is the flowchart. Flowchart is also knowing how a flow can really go with other modules, routing each modules from there to there and also knowing which features can route from there to there because knowing what features connect with other means simplifying the modules and knowing the scope, the limitation of each modules will be doing. So having this wireframe is a layout this is much more aligned with usability in terms of UX wise. You need to know how a certain features work, whether it's an application, web app, or an application. Because in usability, you have to know the end case of a certain user. And this one is balance. Balance is something that's always relevant to you because you have to balance the usability, the visual elements, and you have to combine in that in a way the user can have this user-friendly experience in terms of your designs or in terms of how they can really go with the designs you have because you have provided with. So this one is prototyping. Prototyping is how you can really propose a certain feature or a certain flow to a developer because in terms of design wise, you also need to know the capacity of developer if this is doable or not or if that's necessary because sometimes we as a designer don't know design the developers too well. That's why we also have this fundamentals about being a developer so that we know our limitations being a designer and also being a developer. So having this one is my personal project. Having this one is my personal project, knowing that I can expound my design process. So as you can see here, is that I've implemented in a way that I can make the designs more visual appealing, and it's more likely go through a lot of feedback. It's more of a how can it be? What's your endpoints here? What's your user personas here? What's your user entities here? What can I provide for the solution with the business goal in mind? Because business goal is something that you always need to keep in mind. Because business goal is something that can this design help the business? Because having this visual appealing side always help some other business, but the other way around is that some businesses downgraded that one because they always lean more of how a usable design is. So it's more of a usability in terms of design wise. Other stuff is how you dev end off or such a way or how you collaborate with the developer because in this one you have to know, oh, so is this much more of a good thing on your end or not? So you have to be transparent in your designs and to know what can be or what can be not because there's always a feedback or trial and error phase in terms of the design wise and also the feedback of being a developer and also this learning. As I've said earlier, there's always a learning curve of being a designer, and that's always essential, whether you are starting, junior, average, or a senior, because learning is always inevitable in design. It's something that's always blends with me, because as the learning goes, it always goes with mastering your craft, knowing what your craft does, and elevating your craft with AI. That's something always being cautious because AI won't really kill the job, but it's how you cope up with AI. So my daily routine as designer is how I design every day, how I maintain design trends, how I learn the new tools for Figma, for Framer, or for Web, or for Wix, or it really depends on that because I always try to see the pain points, user persona, competitive research, or how it usually flows in terms of the designers, developers, or the user as it is. So having this time management is really something that's something truly coincides with me because always approaching with the design and having this design that I have a design for this week so I need to prepare for it. So that's why having the design before the deadline is something that's always gonna be good because you can do a multiple iterations with the design and that's something that a client wants because they have a choices. That's why we need to create a multiple design iterations for the design that we will be proposing for a client. So more teamwork. Teamwork is always a substantial one. Teamwork is something that you always need to cooperate, whether it is a developer, software engineer, developer front end, the back end, or something like that. Because being a being a team is always essential when you're trying to design because you're not just trying to design for yourself. You're always trying to design for everyone, whether it is a customer, developer, or whatnot. Because in the end, you're not just designing for something, you're designing with a purpose or a solution in mind. And having this growth mindset is something that gives you a disparity with a lot of designers because always know or having this no limitation is a great designer because you're learning as much as possible and that's a great way for you as a designer and having this capability that you can learn as much as possible is a way for others to understand that you have this learning curve or learning curve that's has no limit and the other thing is this last one. Thank you. Thank you for accommodating my internship application here at Symph. And I'm really happy that I can I can I can show myself whether it is this Pecha Coach style presentation because I really have a lot of fun during this presentation and I'm really grateful for everything.